Good evening and welcome to Axiom Flux News. Today's date is the 2nd of January 2015. We've got some articles from PJ, Bok and myself, Stav. So basically I'll kick you off this evening and I'll a bit of breaking news a couple of hours ago, and it's about the royal family, or one member of the royal family. Read you the headline: Palace denies Prince Andrew sex claims. Buckingham Palace has issued a strongly worded denial of allegations that Prince Andrew was involved in impropriety with underage minors. The statement was released after the Duke of York was named in a US lawsuit. The woman who has made the allegations claims the disgraced US banker Jeffrey Epstein loaned her out to friends, including Prince Andrew. Papers filed by her lawyers say she was held as a sex slave by Epstein from 1999 through to 2002 after he became enamored with her. In the motion filed in a court in Florida, she claims she was forced to have sexual relations with this prince when she was a minor in London, New York, and in a private Caribbean island. She is believed to have been 17 at the time, underage according to US law. The documents: Epstein instructed Jane Doe #free that she was to give the prince whatever he demanded and required Jane Doe #free to report back to him on details of the sexual abuse. The woman, who wishes to remain anonymous and is referred to as Jane Doe free in documents, says Epstein, who has been jailed for having sex with a 14-year-old, forced her to have sexual encounters against her will between 1999 and 2002. In the papers, she claims she was effectively recruited for Epstein use by Ghislaine Maxwell, the daughter of the late media tycoon Robert Maxwell, when she was 15 years old. It is claimed in the court document that Miss Maxwell was one of the main women who Epstein used to procure underage girls for sexual activities. The document also claims Epstein's purpose in lending Jane Doe to such powerful people were to ingratiate himself with them for business, personal, political and financial gain, and as well to obtain potential blackmail information. Buckingham Palace said this relates to long-standing and ongoing civil proceedings in the United States to which the Duke of York is not a party. As such, we would not comment in detail. However, for the avoidance of doubt, any suggestions of impropriety with underage minors is categorically untrue. Prince Andrew's friendship with Epstein is well documented, and in an interview in 2011, he denied any sexual contact with any other of the young women connected to the multimillionaire banker. Sky News correspondent Rhianna Mills said, "It's important to point out that we have in the past seen Prince Andrew criticised for spending time with Epstein, including in December 2010 after he was released from prison. Epstein was jailed in 2008 and spent 13 months in jail after admitting to have sex with a 14-year-old girl. With a 14-year-old. He had been investigated for paying underage girls to have sex with him at a luxury Palm Beach home, and 40 women had come forward as victims. However, he cut a deal with the federal prosecutors and charges were not progressed, and he agreed to admit sex with the teenage girl. Two of his victims have now brought a case against the prosecutors, claiming their rights were violated because they were not consulted on the secret deal. Jane Doe free has applied to the court to be included in the lawsuit against the federal prosecutor, and it is in the legal document to join the case that she makes the allegations against the Duke of York. Sky News has attempted to reach Miss Maxwell for a response for the latest allegations. When claims about the nature of a relationship with Epstein were reported in 2011, The lawyers issued a statement describing them as entirely false. So there we have this breaking news involving HRH, Prince Andrew of the Windsor family. So, what we could say, I think yes, but I guess where he goes as. All too early to know any more details than what we can gather from here. Although I've read internet rumours, and I suppose internet rumours are rumours until anything concrete is put in place, and court hearings, etc., etc., if they come about, etc. But there has been whispers on the internet. I think most people that have been following the paedophiles scandal with ministers in high places in the UK political system and parliament, and VIPs and all the rest. I've obviously read those rumours that have been on the internet. So anyway, before I could go on to the next one, is there anything, PJ, you want to add to that one? It's because the next article sort of ties in with what's really been going on. And am I shocked? No, not because because of the royal family, but because you know, we've read these rumours on the internet, and anybody who's been following this will have read the same rumours, I'm sure. Have you got anything to say, Peter?
I think you've covered it for now. It's fairly, early to place any speculation on it. It's, we can only just take the word for as it is, really, can't we, for now? But I'm sure if there's anything involved in it, it'll surely come out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know whether you want to comment box at all quickly, or do you want me to move on to the next article, which kind of links with what I was mentioning
Go ahead,
after.
Andy.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's fine.
Yeah. Well, the next article that came out earlier today, or it might have been last night, I can't remember now. But this is about the child abuse cases and claims and allegations of the cover-up of paedophilia from government officials, MPs, cabinet members of whatever from the 80s, Margaret Thatcher era, etc., etc., dodgy dossiers, cover-ups and whatever. So again, if you followed this, then you'll know more, just as much about it as me, if not more, I'm sure. Anyway, I read the article. Tens of thousands of historical child abuse cases. The number of historical claims of sexual abuse against children is likely to reach tens of thousands, an MP has warned. Labour backbencher John Mann told Sky News there will be too many cases for the state to cope with, and it's calling for a national institute to help victims. It comes after many survivors called for the government to scrap its current inquiry into paedophile activity and replace it with a more powerful body. The wide-ranging probe was sparked by claims of paedophile operating in Westminster in the 1980s and is still mired in controversy. Two chairwomen, former Judge Baroness Butler Sloss and ex-Lord Mayor of London Fiona Woolf, have already had to stand aside over their establishment links. Let's get that right. Mr. Mann, the MP for Bassett Law, said the government needed victims' confidence and the state cannot cope with the number of people coming forward to report the abuse. We are talking at this volume of people across the country, not thousands, but tens of thousands in every part of the country, he told Sky News. As an example, in Nottinghamshire, every single children's home has been affected with allegations, people coming forward of abuse, sexual and violent, when they were children. He added, and the state, by which I mean social service, mental health service, the police, cannot cope with the volume of people coming forward. I've seen that just with my own constituents who have come forward via me to those services. They cannot cope at the moment, and we're only just at the beginning of people coming forward. He goes on to say, as we saw when Jimmy Savile was outed for what he'd done, over 500 people then came forward as victims, and people are still coming forward. This is absolutely huge, and the resources and people needed to deal with it are not in place at the moment. In December, Mr. Mann handed a dossier of evidence to Scotland Yard, claiming 2 whistleblowers who had information about MP's alleged involvement in the paedophile ring may have been murdered. He said the evidence related to the suspicious deaths of 2 men, a former Lambeth Council official named Bulick Forsyth and a caretaker whose name he did not disclose. Police were already aware of the potential link between one of the deaths and the child sex abuse ring, which involved highly influential politicians during the 1970s, 1980s, Mr. Mann said. Well, you know, this is going to be even bigger than I think most people dare to realise, really. You know, you've got statements like tens of thousands in each sort of area, and this is absolutely huge. I mean, you know, I don't think an MP would come out with this sort of language unless there was some ounce of truth to it, and I think, you know, it could bring the establishment right down. I can't see how on earth a system or the establishment that has done, you know, this is not just something that's happened in a particular time with a small group of people. This is widespread, and from, you know, nobody knows if it's still ongoing. So the ramifications of this, I mean, it could possibly bring the whole system down. Certainly bring down the whole establishment, the current establishment. I can't see them covering this up, no matter what they do with inquiries, because the people have obviously lost faith with government inquiries, because the two women that they put forward, was it Butler Sloss and Fiona Wolf, I mean, they're discredited because of their links with establishment members. So, you know, I don't think they can find anybody that's in a position of authority as regards government or parliament can be brought forward if that's the case. So, yeah, absolutely horrendous. That's all I can say. This can't all be just young people like you see in, you know, some people's comments about, oh, they're all going to come out and just play the old blame game and try and get some money and all this business. I think it's too big, and it could bring this whole show down. Don't know what you think, Pedro.
Well, I agree. Something needs to be done. Not too sure if I can understand what John Mann means by a more powerful body. The word powerful there, I'd rather prefer to use appropriate, but there you go. What do you think on that?
Well, I don't see how they're going to, you know, they can't use an inquiry like they've done with other inquiries, because there's no faith in the survivors that are coming forward in their tens of thousands now. I mean, the current government, Theresa May, who put these 2 women beforehand, and there's no confidence in any of it. I don't think there's any confidence in any government inquiry. So it's got to be a public inquiry out in the open, outside of Parliament, in a, you know, it's got to be full disclosure of it, everything, because I don't think they'll get the victims' confidence. And if they're coming forward in their tens of thousands, okay, some of them might not be, you know, but at the end of the day, it's got to be a big, massive, out in the air, open, public inquiry for everybody to see what's going on and what went on, and people should be held responsible. this can't be brushed under the carpet with a few ex-BBC entertainers, which have,
Ultimately, Andy, it's just, it's when it says there's too many cases, for the state to cope with. Now, if the state can't cope with this, it just brings to mind, well, what actually are they capable with coping with,
Well, I just don't know how it's going to be handled. But whichever way whoever comes in, the victim support maybe. I know there's good people out there working for the victims. There's the Bill Maloney guy and several others that are working hard on behalf of the victims, and maybe they can all get together with people that other people perhaps that are involved, not so much directly with government, but some type of civil service or some type of court system. I don't know. It needs to be. It's got to be people that obviously the survivors have some confidence in, because there's no credibility to the current system and the current government under this.
No, definitely not.
So they can't have any credibility. In actual fact, I'd argue the case that any former government before these, way back to, even if you just take it back to this cover-up of Margaret Thatcher's cabinet and whatever it was during the time with the dodgy dossier, the missing dossier, whatever it is, list of names, etc., that I think Britain said didn't exist or gave it to somebody and it got lost or conveniently lost or whatever. It's just, there's no integrity to any of those former governments as far as I'm concerned, because they must have known about this. I don't see how you can keep something like this. Well, you could keep it quiet, but not be aware. I can't quite buy it. I'm not buying that. Maybe some people of the establishment weren't aware, but yeah, it's just devastating, really. The longer this goes on, the more numbers are coming forward, and tens of thousands in all areas. I mean, it's mind-boggling. Any comments from you, Bob?
Yeah, well, I was going to say the numbers are astounding, Andy. I mean, I'm a bit ignorant to some of this kind of material, but yeah, it's unbelievable.
Well, I think it's been going on in all countries. I mean, the Americans have got the was it the Boys Town cover-up in the 80s, was it, or 70s, or way back? I can't remember the chap who revealed it all, but I mean, I think it's in most establishments, because it seems to be just everywhere. And
I mean, would you say it was tens of thousands?
Yes, tens of thousands, in all areas. That's right across the country. I mean, he's just saying tens of thousands. You could be looking at 500,000 people coming forward. As crazy as that sounds, they're the survivors. A lot of these people, if it stretches back to the 60s and the 70s, a lot of these people that were abused in those days, possibly no longer with us. So, maybe a lot have survived, and there still will be survivors, I think, who won't be coming forward. Some may have taken, gagging money or something, and they can't come forward, and they feel that now they should do, but they can't because, under some type of gagging rule or law that they got compensated and that was it and it's all over and done with. I don't know the rules and laws on that, but yeah, it's absolutely mind-boggling. And I suppose, we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out, but I can't see. I mean, if you look at the Houses of Parliament and the stuff it's gone through with the claims, the expensive scandal, and And then you've got the bank scandal with the LIBOR, and they're involved, and certain members of the establishment are involved with the banks as shareholders, and it's and the expensive scandal was huge, and you've got this as well. I mean, I don't feel that they've got any integrity left. I don't even know why they feel that they've got the right to run a general election next year under the present system. I really think it should be dissolved, and this should be tackled. This issue here should be tackled, and there should be like an interim, temporary, I don't know, some type of coalition between all the few that are there just to run the country and get these things sorted out. Because I don't see what integrity they've got to call a general election. I really don't think they've got that. I don't see how people can go and vote. Obviously, people may, but if I was a voting person, I don't see. I wouldn't vote. I don't see how you can. But anyway, I shall move on. If you guys have got nothing else to say about it, yeah.
Yeah, and move on. I think that's covered it.
Okay, sorry to take so long, but it's rather a huge story, that one. I wasn't intending, that was found late, so my main one would have been this here, which has been kept reasonably quiet by world leaders and scientists because of the global warming fiasco and what they've been pushing. But anyway, I'm not saying this isn't anything like the global warming, but I can't say. But all I can say about this is I have a little bit of self-knowledge about solar cycles and things because I was into radio communication when I was young. I still a little bit as a hobby now, but so I can sort of like understand why things are not quite how they seemed a few decades ago. But anyway, here's the headlines. This is what's up with that article. Headlines over solar cycle 25 and potential global cooling. There's a story about solar cycle 25 and the potential mini ice age in the UK, Daily Mail by David Rose, that is making headlines today. Even hitting the Drudge Report. The headline is, I will just go to say this is an old article for 2012, but it is relevant for the present time. Forget global warming. It's a cycle 25 we need to worry about, and if NASA scientists are right, the Thames will be freezing over again. Met Office releases new figures which show no warming in 15 years. So we've never had no global warming in 15 years. So where's that gone? The graph from the Daily Mail article below looks familiar. These are 11-year solar cycle peaks and troughs. Each one of these start and finish around about between 11 and 13 years, but the average is about 11 years. At the moment, we're currently about here, towards the end of the tip of this current solar cycle 24. The one they're referring to here, solar 2025, is this little tiny thing here. Now these go back to 1743 on there, I think it is. And as you can see, these lower cycles here, not like these here, these are warm periods, these are cold periods, these are warm periods, these are cold periods, okay, etc. So really, we're heading for a really cold period. And if you look at that there, you can see the cycle there. If it's predicted that solar cycle 25, which they're warned about, is going to be tiny down here. That was a Dalton minimum. Now, if you remember, if you watch films or read books like Charles Dickens novels, like Oliver Twist, and people like that, you'll notice it's always in a cold, snowy scene. That's because they were experiencing that period, like not a mini ice age, but a very cold period. And there's the solar cycles to prove it, very low compared to the warm period ones. So anyway, moving on, not to get you confused. According to a paper issued last week by the Met Office, there is a 92% chance that both cycle 25 and those taking place in the following decades will be as weak as or weaker than the Dalton minimum. That's this one here. in 1790 to 1830. In this period, named after the meteorologist John Dalton, average temperatures in parts of Europe fell by 2 degrees C. That's average. That's not peaks, that's just average, which is quite extreme. Readers may recall the What's Up With That had this story on January 25th via David Archibald. First estimate of solar cycle 25 amplitude may be the smallest in over 300 years. The graph he provided matches almost exactly. He wrote, using the Livingstone and Penn solar cycle 25 amplitude estimate, this is what the solar cycle record is projected to look like, which is the one like we saw above. And yes, that means the end of the modern warm period, which is this period here we've all been living and waxing in for the past almost 100 years. Daily Mail article also says, based on readings from more than 30,000 measured stations, the data was issued last week without fanfare by Met Office and the University of East Anglia Climate Research Unit, and confirms that the rising trend in world temperatures ended in 1997. That's when your global warming ended. So, you know, that's even Al Gore came after that and saying that, but they fixed all the charts. It's all in an article, but I won't touch on, because here is the chart. Okay, here's the proof that global warming ended in 1998. If you look up here, there's the peak. All the years after 1998, none of the peaks get any higher. So no higher peaks means no global warming. So we've gone into a cooling period from 2000 onwards, or 1998 onwards, after that peak there. We've gone into global cooling, so we're quite the way into it, but it doesn't move drastic until a year, 2 years, 3 years time. Without going too much into this, because I've eaten up a lot of time with the Prince Andrew article. These are NASA scientists. Even the Met Office are agreeing. Okay, and even the grand minimum, the Russian scientists are saying the same thing. So this ain't no, they'll give the same graphs. In actual fact, you'll see them, this is the current model at the moment, but it's not going to get much higher. We're about here, and it's peaked, and we're going down, and then we go to the cycle 25, which will be way down here. This will give you a better idea. Okay, it's basically the radiance of the sun. They're called irradiance. Yeah, the irradiance has dimmed each cycle and got to the point where we're down about here now. So any time now, it's just going to get progressively cooler, and the next chart will show you here. Basically 2020, you're looking down here. Here's the radiances. They call this the cool sun. Yeah, hot sun, yellow. This colour. It's to do with the radiance of the sun, and also they measure the sunspots and the temperature. It shows up differently. Here we are again. Here we are. You can see the radiance was going down, going down, going down till there's no radiance, and now we're down here. And this coincides with the sunspots. Just to finish it off, the Russians are more skeptical. They actually feel that it may possibly be at least a Maunder minimum, and that's going back to the 1650 to 1700s period, where the Thames was permanently frozen over 9-10 months of the year, which they had the frost fairs on there, and they had all the markets on the Thames. Parts of the Channel was frozen up. The whole of Holland's dikes and inshore waters was frozen up. So it's quite. Without being too gloom and doom about it, minimum they're talking about a 2 degrees drop on average. But if you go to the Maunder minimum, you're talking at maybe 3-4 degrees. Now, people that get a -10 this time of the year in certain parts of the world, you could probably say -40, -50, and that's what you're looking at. It's almost frightening. But, it makes you think, with all this global unrest, banks, monetary problems, police state, martial law, and all this talk, is it just about a financial collapse? When they probably, if there's a lot of truth in this, and a lot of scientists throughout the world are coming on side with this now. They're starting to come and say, yeah, all the models point to this. I'm afraid it's true. The global warming myth was just a myth. We got it wrong, and we're heading into a cooler period. And if that's the case, a lot of grain in North America won't be able to be grown, especially Canada, Bok. You won't have no grain. You won't be able to grow it. And there'll be food shortages and all sorts of things, logistic problems. None of the governments of the world are prepared for this, and it's too late now. Even if they wheeled out things now, there's going to be a lot of big problems if these guys are right. So anyway, I'll put that over to PJ. See what your take is. And that'll wrap my articles up for tonight. And sorry for taking too much time.
No, that's alright. I think that's pretty important. Needs to be put across. There's not many medias out there that is talking about this, Andy. So you've done right. We spending the time on that, I think, and you put it across quite well. So nothing I've got to add to that. Don't know if Box anything. Got anything to add to it?
Yeah, that's really interesting, Andy. Yeah, hopefully with we've got a few years here, we could come up with some solutions. Like you said, we're running out of time soon.
Yeah, well, I think it's too late, to be honest. If it's anywhere near accurate, even if it's just a Dalton minimum, you're going to look. Nobody's prepared. And again, I can't believe that governments throughout the world have not been made aware of this. But you never know. It's there's so much going on in the world now. Maybe they've just taken the eye off the ball. We know that certain policies are put forward to help, are favoured for large corporations. And I think the global warming myth, which is now being admitted to, and this carbon tax fiasco, all this is green. Green energy is good. Alternative energy is good, and there's no reason why they can't carry on. We can't actually push on with that. But it makes you wonder. Maybe they've just taken their eye off the ball. Maybe they've just got so slack and so drunk on consumerism and cheap money, and they've been caught with their pants down. But it's not just them; it's the whole of humanity. Because last time that Maunder minimum came round, you were only talking about 1 billion people on the earth. There's now 7 billion, and I'm not saying there isn't room or the food there to feed people, but food's going to be in short supply because a lot of the crop growing areas, especially in northern United States, northern Europe, and at that you won't be able to grow corn, even wheat won't grow in those temperatures. So, yep. Okay. Well, I'm going to stick it over to you, Bob. That's my articles.
Yeah.
It on. So.
Well, while we were on that subject, I thought I'd throw up this little diagram here that I came across a Michael Tessarian lecture, and basically it's describing the equinox and the precession of 25,000 years, the sine wave diagram of long-term history. And so what Andy was just is we're heading into this part of Aquarius here. And
I'm not seeing any article at the minute showing Bok.
we'll try again. Screen share. Is that working?
Not at the minute. What about you, Andy? Is it showing anything on your side?
Sorry, I was on mute. No, I've got the black screen for Bok, but the little white arrow is there, but there's nothing even on his little screen.
No. Well, how about if I try mine and then we'll come back to your articles, Bok? Gives you a little bit of time to see what's going off there.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, let me know if you can see mine.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So, covering over the past week almost now since Sunday, I've been bringing some information and paying close attention to the AirAsia crash. So I'm just going to give you a quick update from The Guardian. AirAsia crash pilot may have landed on sea surface, an expert has said. As first body is returned to family, analysts say plane may have made emergency landing only to become overcome by high seas. A passenger aboard AirAsia Flight 8501 became the first victim of the crash to be returned to her family on Thursday, as analysts said. The pilot may have managed to make an emergency water landing only for the plane to be overcome by high seas. The Airbus A320-200 left the Indonesian city of Surabaya earlier on Sunday and disappeared from radar over the Java Sea during a storm, but it failed to send the transmissions normally emitted when a plane crashes or is submerged. This suggests the experienced former Air Force pilot, Captain Irianto, conducted an emergency water landing which did not have a destructive impact. The emergency low-torque transmitter, also known as the ELT, would work on impact, be that land, sea, sides of a mountain. And my analysis is it did because there was no movement during landing. Then gone to say Dude Sudibyo, a senior editor of aviation magazine Angkasa, told AFP, the pilot managed to land it on the sea surface, he added. 9 bodies have been recovered so far, including 2 on Thursday. Remains are being sent initially to Pangkalan Bun, the closest town on Borneo Island, before being transported to Surabaya, Indonesia's second largest city, where Flight 8501 had taken off. Hayata Lutfia Hamid's body, in a dark casket topped with flowers, was handed over to family members during a brief ceremony at a police hospital. The coffin was then taken to a village and lowered into a muddy grave, and an imam said a simple prayer as about 150 people gathered in the drizzling rain, and red flowers were sprinkled over them of wet dirt topped by a small tombstone. So funerals have started to take place. These bodies have been delivered from the sea to the family members. But apart from that, what I would like to say is from an article the other day, which went on to speak of the plane coming down almost vertically with unprecedented speed, and then going in from that into what this article says is a water landing. So I'm not too sure exactly where this story overall is heading. A lot of different media is covering it differently. But I just thought I'd bring this to your attention It is a Guardian article if you want to go and have a look and look into it a bit more and see what you think. But other than that, I'm not too sure what you two have got your thoughts on that, if anything at all.
But it seems to be, if you could go back to the top of the article, PJ, put it up for us. To the
Up
top
to
of
the
the
top.
page.
Right, just bear with me one moment. Okay, there you go. Should be able to see that
yeah.
there.
Well, the AirAsia crash pilot. Oh, it's gone good.
Can you not see that?
No, it's gone back down again.
Oh, you wanted the headlines, did you?
Yeah, it's right at the top. Yeah.
Right, okay.
It's only a small point.
Yeah, it's okay. There you go.
Wait for it to come up. Ah. Yeah, there we go. Right, thanks. AirAsia crash. Pilot may have landed on sea surface, experts say. Body returned to. Well, actually, it doesn't matter. I think you sort of said in the article that he made as soft as landing as he could, so he was in control, I gather, the pilot. But the only thing that supposedly come unstuck was that it was very stormy. So, but I think yesterday's article, or the day before, was saying that the plane had vertically gone up at 9,000 feet per minute and came down directly, like straight down, and went into the sea. So that the story's kind of changed there, and I'm wondering whether that was just a load of I don't know what yesterday, where they could get the two stories so completely wrong. Because to me, to say it's made a belly flop landing, and the only thing that's gone against the poor people and the pilot is because it was so rough. They must have landed and never had time to get out, people to jump out, or if they did, then obviously the sea was too rough and they succumbed to the bad weather and whatever. I just find it a little bit fishy. As the day before was saying that this freakish weather, which I think we pretty much debunked really, because you don't even get that in a Cat 5 hurricane. What they was trying to say, what was happened yesterday. So basically, that's all I wanted to say is the
maybe Andy, maybe if that was the case, then categories needs to be extended. Do you think?
Well, yeah, that would, there is nothing stronger than a Category 5 hurricane. That's the maximum category they do.
Yeah.
And these planes, like I say, in the Gulf of Mexico and West Indies, the Caribbean, and across the Atlantic there, when they observe these hurricanes coming across and strengthening, they fly in and out of them all the time and take readings and data through the eye, and they've done that quite a bit with Hurricane Katrina, which at time was the most ferocious hurricane Cat 5 they've ever experienced. And it's a jet plane. It's a military jet plane or converted passenger plane, I can't remember, but it's a jet plane, and a jet plane's a jet plane. And they've never really. They get severe turbulence problems, like I said before. But the way they was describing yesterday's circumstances before the crash, which caused the crash, was almost like, wow, it's too dangerous. If you're going to have them events, then it's clearly too dangerous to fly again. You know what I mean? So I just find it a little bit how they've changed it now that he pretty much had a perfect sea landing, but the only thing emergency landing, but the only thing that's undone them is the roughness of the sea. So it's two extreme explanations in just 2 days. So there you go. That's all, really, PJ.
Andy, what about you, Bok? Anything you'd like to add?
No, after yesterday, I think we talked about more information and the black box and details that are not often shared with us. So I mean, it's hard to speculate. We can only sit here and speculate. Um, but I think the bottom line is that people on all levels across the board, someone needs to take responsibility, and it just seems like more and more of these type of events are taking place, and it's just there's just a lack of responsibility where no one can say, hey, no one wants to step up and say, hey, we can do things better. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that book. Okay, moving on to my final article. This is from a Canadian media, I think. 2014 year in review. Its world population grew the size of Germany. So, if I'm able to here, just show you quickly over this one. Will be 77.381 million more people breathing the world's air on New Year's Day, according to new statistics released Monday. That's almost the same number of people currently living in Germany. The world's population is projected to reach 7.2 billion on January the 1st, 2015, an increase of 77 million, or 1.08% from 2014, according to the United States Census Bureau. According to the data, it is estimated that about 4.3 billion deaths will occur every second worldwide in January. According to latest data from Statistics Canada, our nation's estimated population reached 35 million in October, beating yearly projections by almost 160,000. Based on what Statistics Canada call a medium growth scenario, Canada's population is projected to reach 35 million in 2015, a growth of about 200,000 people. So, as this article then leads on to say, how many people can Earth support? So let's read a little bit more. According to a 2011 Life Science article, the answer is about 10 billion people. The article cites research by a Harvard University sociobiologist estimate based on calculations of Earth's available resources, more specifically the amount of food the planet can produce. If everyone agreed to become vegetarian, leaving little or nothing for livestock, the present 1.4 billion hectares of arable land, 3.5 billion acres, would support about 10 billion people. Edward O. Wilson said in his book, The Future of Life. The United Nations predicts the world will reach 9 billion by 2050. Not everyone is going to stop eating, so how will we survive? No one really knows. According to the United Nations, even though population is expected to rise, population will decrease in more than 40 countries in the next 30 years. Some European countries will see a decline in population within the next 5 years. It also says, having a few technical issues today with this. I think I got a little bit too far there. Okay, then it says there are very few factors that will shape the future of global development situation as fundamentally as possible as population patterns and trends. UN's Assistant Secretary General for Policy Coordination and Interagency Affairs said in a September interview, at the same time, the world is an increasingly complex place to live, with governments facing quite different demographic opportunities and challenges. So, my version or view on this would be to say it's not so much to do with the production of food I'd say it's more to do with the distribution of food, and taking, them two separately, which this article really doesn't go into. It just speaks about production and population and all numbers. It's numbers, Andy. What do you think, Andy? Give some feedback.
Yeah, well, they love numbers, don't they? Because numbers can be manipulated, either minus or plus, can't they? Yeah, but we have to take that, there's 7.2 billion people on the earth now. We have to take that as with some sort of legitimacy, I guess. I think personally, but I'm not 100% sure. You may have the accurate figures at the top of the head when you've got somewhere 0.0001% of the earth wealth control 40 or 50% or 60%. I don't know which one. I think it's 40% of the wealth of the whole country, and the rest is the 7 billion. And it's not so much about resources. I agree with you. It's about distribution. And there's you get people like sometimes I agree with him, Mr. Brown, and he's talking about its inequality in society. Well, look a bit wider into some of these third and fourth. I think there's a fourth sort of like third world countries and fourth world countries, apparently. They don't really. It's not so much inequality. It's the suppression of the countries that to be able to sustain themselves. Because I think a lot of parts of Africa can do this if certain global corporations and IMF loan deals and all the rest haven't, I think, has suppressed people in those areas from being able to sustain their own populations and look after them. So it's the big greed thing again. I think that's a lot to do with it.
I think it's all intertied in, especially what you covered earlier with, the solar cycle. It's all collectively combined. I think. I don't know if you've got Bob, if he's there, if he's got any thoughts. May still have a bit of technical difficulties. I think I'm not too.
Yeah, very briefly again. It's of course, and if the world was run more naturally and populations, I'm a great believer that nature takes care of itself, and these warm periods, cool periods, wax and wane, and I think populations are evened out with if them areas in the different parts of the world were in control of their own resources. If you see what I'm saying. So I do think that these periods will control population, and at the end of the day, I don't think, even though they think they can fix the weather and they can fix this and they can fix asteroids from coming and hitting the Earth, and they've got these big ideas, I don't think they're in that much control. And I think there'll be a self-regulating by the Earth of the human being population. I think they're just being a bit too arrogant to think that they can control it. The heads of the world governments or whatever. Because good article, PJ.
No worries. Do you think though these articles would actually come from someplace in India or China? Where they can actually be in the position to talk about population and masses of it, rather than an article from Toronto.
Well, you know.
What do you think about that, Buck?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, but hey, at least someone's thinking about it, huh?
Are we on your side? Have we got a solution to the screen share yet, Buck?
I hope so. I'm not sure. Guess we'll find out.
Right, I'll let you take over from now, and we'll give it a try.
let's try a full screen share here. Let's see how that goes. Whoa, what's going on there? Okay, let's go here. How's that? Anything?
Yes, Bob. That. We've got it up. It's digital addiction become more prevalent. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why it's running a bit slow on my end today. Well, so this story caught my eye today. Digital addiction becoming more prevalent. The story's from Richmond, British Columbia. It was posted December 30th, 2014. Addiction services say it deals with roughly 20 to 30 families annually. There's a reason some call their BlackBerry smartphone a crackberry. The Richmond Addiction Services in BC, British Columbia, has been helping young people overcome their digital addictions since 2007 and says it deals with roughly 20 to 30 new families every year that need help with digital addictions. Benjamin Wong, a counselor at Richmond Addiction Services, said he works with individuals between the ages of 12 to 25 and their families to support them in dealing with digital addictions. I can already see the short form now. They'll just call it DA. Oh, you've got DA, digital addiction. When they just can't separate themselves from a screen, be it a smartphone, computer, or a gaming device. When behavior affects school attendance, when behavior affects relationships, when their behavior affects their ability to hold on to employment, sleep, hygiene, nutrition, those things we look at, Wong said. Wong said it takes 6 months to 1 year to break an addiction and for addicted individuals to learn to cope with their emotions. We're trying to break a habit. It takes time to form new habits, new neurological systems to break some of the things that had been so conditioned to be around. Take the poll. Do you spend too much time with your digital devices? It looks like some sort of an average here, where 39% said yes, 27% said no, 28% said sometimes, 6% are not sure, 6% are not cognizant whatsoever. Yeah, so that's article. I mean, that picture says it all. We see it it's around us all the time. I talk about it all the time. People cross the streets now and they don't even look. They just and, they're absent-minded enough to begin with, and that certainly isn't helping. So the next article. You guys want to comment on the last one?
I'll just very quickly say that I don't have a smartphone, or should we say a not so smartphone. When you see people walking about across the road and their heads in their phone, and cars going around them, nearly being knocked over, walking into fences, walking into lampposts, not so smart.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, good article, Bob, and.
Yeah.
Addiction, it's got to be, it can't be anything else if it's you can't put the damn things down. So, but I leave mine in the house. I don't take anything out with me. If I'm going out, I want to know where I'm going rather than wander around.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. PJ, any thoughts on that?
Unfortunately, I didn't get the beginning article because I just had a few problems here. I got disconnected, so unfortunately, Buck, I missed that.
Oh, hey, to quickly fill you in, PJ, we were talking about digital addiction.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah. The article was actually saying that, the numbers are adding up to people who are actually having to go deal with counseling and, behavioral addiction counseling and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, you know, it's expected if you're spending less time on other things and you've got a little addiction going off there, then it's like anything really. Expect to see, you know, some side effects or at
Yeah.
least an aftermath.